ونبينا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة الأبدية على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين إن شاء الله. Today we are going to take a new topic. That topic is بحث of Sayyid Alkhoei, Sayyid Sistani, and Sayyid Muhammad Sa'id al-Hakim. The reason is because they have like their arguments are there, and their arguments are strongly presented by them. So those who are in the same line of Sayyid Alkhoei, their arguments will be obviously arguments of Sayyid Alkhoei. And those in the line of Sayyid Muhammad Sa'id al-Hakim, where nobody is in the line of Sayyid Muhammad Sa'id al-Hakim until now, because he has a unique way out, a unique theory, which I'm going to mention. So that's why I'm taking three directions, and I'm going to present their discussions and arguments so that our youth and our youngsters are aware that it is not like they don't want to unite. It is the narrations are one, the evidences are one, but the angles are a bit different. The angles of how they look at the narration. Remember the lenses are a bit different. So basically, Sayyid Alkhoei has certain narrations. Same narrations are used by Sayyid Sistani, same narrations. So religious evidences, hadith is one. So where is the difference? The difference comes in the angles of how to conclude from this hadith the issue of sharing of the night or sharing of the sunset or sharing of the land. Because Sayyid Alkhoei says, as long as all these regions, they share one night, they all can share their moon sighting. Sayyid al-Sistani Damadullah says, no, the sharing of the sunset, this is the old theory, but he has modified it with some scientific insight in it, because there were scientific issues in the old theory, the way it was presented. And this is normal, because the more the science advances, because as I said, hadith does not have it. We have to go back to the science and ask the science, what do you have? How can you solve our answer? The Imam alayhi salam said, any region can follow other region. Now there has to be a criteria for these regions. So how far these regions could go? Is it the sharing of the night, or is it the sharing of the sunset? We limit the regions where they share the sunset almost together. Or as Sayyid Muhammad Sa'id al-Hakim Damadullah says that no, we share the land. So as long as the land is connected with each other, they are going to follow the sighting of each other. How? So for example, the Africa and Europe and Asia, they don't have big vast oceans separating them. So wherever in Asia it's sighted, it's enough for Africa and Europe. Wherever in Europe it's sighted, it's enough for Africa. So it's land, looking at the land. He said, why are we looking at the heavens? Let's look at the down. Why are we looking at the sky? Let's look on the ground. Because we could share one. We could share one ground. Sorry. We could share one ground, and all of us, if one place it is sighted, it is enough for the other place. So sharing of the ground, land, without. So Americas, if they sight, it's not good for Europe. Why? Because there's Atlantic Ocean. Australia, it sites, it's not good for America and for Europe and Africa. Australia has its own independent world. So New Zealand can participate with Australia, those which are closest, which there is no vast ocean between them. So, and some say that that is what is understood from his tawdih, but some said for clarification, he divides the land to new land and old land, which does not apply to the words he mentioned in his Minhaj al-Salihin. In Minhaj al-Salihin says, as long as vast oceans do not separate. So these are the three theories. The theory of Sayyid Alkhoei, because Sayyid Alkhoei did an addition and unique argument, presented it in his direction. So all the students of Sayyid Alkhoei and came after Sayyid Alkhoei, they had almost used the arguments of Sayyid Alkhoei and perhaps addition. There are students of Sayyid Alkhoei like Sayyid Sistani, they went back to the old popular theory, which is the not sharing of the night, sharing of the sunset, with some modification. And there are some students of Sayyid Alkhoei and other Maraja like Sayyid Muhammad Sa'id al-Hakim, he says, no, we don't look at the sky, we don't look at the land. Now, what is the main point of difference? Hadith did not mention these. Hadith did not mention. Hadith was absolute. This land proves, you can take the proof of this land. And there are 4 authentic narrations, 4 Sahih Hadith. Let me just wet my throat a little bit. اللهم كن لي وليك الحجة ابن الحسن اللهم صل على محمد. Okay. So, what is the technical difference? Once I tell you the technical difference, then we look into their arguments. The technical difference in these theories. Number 1, when is the moon sighted? The moon is sighted with the sunset. So sunset is the criteria for those who are looking in the horizon. Okay, sunset. That means what? That means night. And what does that mean? That means the moon was sighted in the night with the sunset. So the whole earth is going to go through that sunset. That means the night is going to go all the way 24 hours. The whole globe will be covered with that night in 24 hours. So that means if it's sighted in one place, it will not go disappear and come back again next day. No, it is sighted for the whole people of the earth. So in 24 hours, 24 hours, all people of the earth, they should observe this sighting if the sighting was proven by authentic channels. Trustworthy narrators, and those those narrators. Before it was difficult. Now with the globalization, with the communication, connection of the scholars together, it is easy. You can see the scholar you trust in Brazil or in North America or in Africa, and you communicate with the scholar. The scholar says, I'm satisfied. You can be satisfied with this satisfaction. So basically, this is what happens. The global moon sighting, the night covers the earth in 24 hours. So it's one Eid, no two Eid. Now, this is technical point of one, that the moon is sighted at night, and once it's sighted at night, it's night for everybody. Other theory, the sunset. Now they say no, the moon is sighted at the time of sunset. For a few, then once the night comes totally darkness, the moon has disappeared. The first night moon stays only for a few, like 20 minutes, half an hour. So once the total darkness happens, the moon disappears. So it is not the whole night. It is the sunset. And the sunsets, they differ from place to place. So that's why that's the regional, that wherever they share the sunsets, they can follow the sighting of each other. That means there was not vast time difference between the sunset, like not half, like 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, no. Like less than 1 hour, half an hour, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, it's okay, but half an hour. Some they don't go beyond half an hour. They say half an hour. And some they don't go beyond 1 hour, 1 hour max. So therefore, the sunset time should be almost close to the sunset time of your region, then only. This is the majority of the opinion, popular opinion of the moon sighting, according to our scholars. Then the third one, I said, Sayyid Muhammad says, why are we looking in top horizon? Let's look on the ground. Where can we share the lands with each other? So these are the technical points. Now, the distance between the sharing of the sunset, that also there has been ijtihad, because the narration does not say like that, anything. There has been ijtihad of the scholars looking. Some scholars, they said 850 kilometers. So the justification was, as one of my teachers says, that they would measure this city, if the moon is sighted, how much time it will take for that city to know this news, and it can be practically usable. So they said that if you take a horse, fast horse, it will take about 24 hours to cross about 800 kilometers, for example. That means he will arrive to the next city before the sunset. So still the day is left. Still they can break their fast and make Eid. This is ijtihad, okay? But then nowadays, the news travels so fast. Those days, they did not have this practicality. Sayyid Alkhoei says this was not an argument even like in the majority of the scholars because it was not practical. We are living in a city and they are living in a city far away from us, 6-7 hours of camel ride or whatever ride. So it was not so practical and, for people to share their moon sighting. Unless if somebody comes after 1 month and says, you know something, the moon was sighted in our region, then the issue can happen. Other than that, Eid day, Eid night, there was no practicality. The more we are becoming globalizing, the more we are becoming one world, one city, okay, the globe is, that's where these issues are coming. So this issue is more contemporary. That's why Sheikh al-Tusi's, before Sheikh al-Tusi's time, very rarely this was discussed. Sheikh al-Tusi had mentioned the probability of the the unity of the sunsets. I mean, sharing the sunset, unity of the horizon. But then what does that mean? That means that it was like a very shallow discussion between them. They were thinking, why should we limit to sunset? Just let it open, let it be absolute, as the hadith has left it absolute, without restrictions, without limitations. So that was, and then after that, Muhaqqiq al-Hilli. So from 400 year Hijrah, Sheikh al-Tusi, till 700 time of the Hillis, that was not even an argument, point of argument, which the city should share which city, how far it should, that was not the case. But the more the traveling happened and people, they traveled and they started seeing that there are differences in the moon sightings, and this place there was Eid, this place there was no Eid. This issue started coming up. The ulamas, they took the evidences, they started looking into them. So now this evidence is absolute evidences where there's no limitation. If there's conflict with logic or conflict with scientific facts, not theories, or there is a conflict with religious other evidences, we need to find solutions to reconciliate. So these religious evidences, there is no conflict with other religious evidences, okay, because this issue is new. So now, but nowadays it conflicts. Which city should I be taking into consideration to follow their moon sighting? So it came a contemporary issue. So after Hillis, like before 700 years, it started boiling, and then wars of arguments happened between our scholars. Wars of arguments, that means when Sayyid Alkhoei says ma'arakat al-ara, ma'araka means war, ara opinions. That means the arguments, obviously academic arguments, but they were heated, kind of like stress, because whenever something new comes, you know, there is a kind of reaction to opposite reaction. People, they don't like to change. People, they don't like new. People, they want to stay in their setup which they are in, that majority of the people. Okay, so when something comes new, there is a rebellious movement against this new. And then there is this argument, like Usuli movement, and we had Ikhbari movement. So Usuli movement was new. So by the rise of Usuli movement and use of intellectual evidences, this issue took a different turn, issue of moon sighting. So ulamas, they started using intellectual evidences in it. So they found out that we need to use the science because it's a scientific phenomena. Sharia does not give more us directions. Then we have to approach to scientific facts and take our directions from those scientific facts, apply on them whatever we have from the Sharia, Islamic hadith, sources of Sharia, Quran or hadith. So it evolved until the time of Sayyid Muhsin Hakim al-Tabatabai, predecessor of Sayyid Alkhoei, before Sayyid Alkhoei, who was the marja of Shia. Sayyid Muhsin Hakim had embraced this ruling. So after that, Sayyid Alkhoei students, they started embracing. Then there was a trend from Qom Hausa, going back to the Mashhur, going back. So it's at some time it became Najafi and Qummi. There are a few Najafis, they were still on the Mashhur theory, like say the Sistani from Najaf, but majority of Najafi, they took the direction of Sayyid Alkhoei and Sayyid Muhsin Hakim, because Sayyid Alkhoei added flavor to his arguments of Sayyid Muhsin Hakim. But then there's another rebellious movement from students of Sayyid Alkhoei, which is Sayyid Sistani. And so there are some, and the Qummiyun, the House of Qom, majority of them, they did not like it. Like even Sayyid al-Khamenei, they have this regional sighting and unity of the horizon. There needs to be horizon united. That means sunset or any other scientific evidences which indicate the sharing of the horizon. So there is a movement of, so there is an era of Mashhur. Then this sharing of the night became Mashhur. And after the demise of Sayyid Alkhoei Quddasa Sirruh, back again to the popular opinion, which is limiting of the horizons. Excuse me. Like each horizon has its own Eid. Different horizons have different Eids. And then Sayyid Sistani added scientific flavors in it, so his theory became a bit stronger according to Ahl al-Khibra. I'm not Ahl al-Khibra, but as I ask, so there is Ahl al-Khibra, they are inclined towards direction of Sayyid Sistani. So it's old, but Sayyid Sistani had kept icing on the cake, modified it according to the modern era, scientific era. So that's why some of my colleagues, they follow Sayyid Alkhoei still, but they have converted in this ruling of Moonsighting to Sayyid Sistani. Okay, but if Sayyid Alkhoei will come back to life, Raj'a, he will rebuttal, but he's not here. So we can't say that, oh yeah, this is the perfect. So that's why this is the perfect theory, no argument. So it's because Sayyid Alkhoei is not here, because as I mentioned, in the time of Sayyid Alkhoei, whenever somebody will bring argument, Sayyid Alkhoei will slice and dice their arguments intellectually, logically, and baffle them. Oh, sorry, Sayyid, sorry. We thought we have strong arguments against you. So Sayyid Alkhoei was known that his arguments were so ironclad, solid, which many scholars, there were a few, they were able to go against Sayyid Alkhoei in his time. Sayyid Alkhoei said, this is your opinion. To you is your opinion, to me is mine. But majority of those who thought that they found loops in the arguments of Sayyid Alkhoei, they were rebutted immediately intellectually by Sayyid Alkhoei. So no one could, majority, excuse me, majority could not stand the arguments of Sayyid Alkhoei. He's the king of the argument. Okay, and you know, he was a mathematician. Like Sayyid Alkhoei, Allama Tabatabai, Sayyid Sistani, these Maraja, they could teach you algebra on a PhD level because they study a lot of mathematics. And logic is also mathematics, but in words. Mathematics is logic, but in numbers. So Sayyid Alkhoei was a mathematician. And you know, nowadays in modern science, this is for those people who are ignorant. They think our Maraja are living in 1,000 years before century. No, our Maraja, those top Maraja, you put a mathematical equation, algebra, whatsoever, which brings brain tumors, they will solve it. Give them some time, but they will solve it. They will find a solution for it. So they study a lot of mathematics. Allama Tabatabai was known to be a mathematician before he took the Hausa direction. Excuse me. So mathematics, logic. So Sayyid Alkhoei was the king in logic, king in mathematics. So therefore, his logical arguments were very rarely rebutted. So therefore, but Sayyid Sistani has rebutted a totally different direction, old direction brought back, revive of the old school of, but with the modern scientific insight in it. So that's why for our youngsters, now the aim of this session is not for you to convert or not to convert, but you get the argument. And if you decide tomorrow, you are following Sayyid Alkhoei, you want to choose Sayyid Sistani, okay, ask Ahlul Khibra, okay, the Mujtahideen in Qum and Najaf, because you've studied the argument. Sit with them, tell them, what is your argument? Collect the arguments. If you see majority of the arguments are in support of Sayyid al-Khui's argument, then you are stuck with Sayyid al-Khui. If you see majority of the scholars, the giants one, they have Sayyid Sistani's argument, then you can switch, convert to Sayyid Sistani in this ruling, okay? Because unless if you have knowledge that Sayyid Sistani is more knowledgeable than Sayyid al-Khui in everything, or in equal to, that's something else. We mentioned these rulings in last sessions, that equal to, you have an option, and so you can have an option. Tabi'ith, partial taqlid, if one marja is a'lam in one area, then you have to follow him. So if you find out that Ahl al-Khibra is saying Sayyidi Sistani's arguments are strong, then you have to refer to Sayyidi Sistani, even if you are following Sayyid al-Khui. Okay. But those who did not do taqlid of Sayyid al-Khui, they find that Sayyid al-Khui's arguments are strong, then they can refer to Sheikh Wahid al-Khurasani with similar argument, or Sheikh al-Fayyad, or if you, so they can refer to these by referring to Ahl al-Khibra. You have to refer. You are not a mujtahid, I'm not a mujtahid. You are a Hausa student, I'm a Hausa student, okay? I might have studied a couple of years more than you, but I'm still a Hausa student. So we are not to decide which theory is, who's more a'lam in theory. We have to refer to mujtahideen. But this will help you when you sit in front of mujtahideen. This will help you understand their argument and make a conclusion. You know, because Sayyid Sistani says it is tab'id, partial taqlid is permissible. If you find some marja more a'lam, more knowledgeable than me in his ruling, then you can refer to him. There's no problem in it. In fact, you have to refer to him if he's more knowledgeable in this ruling than me. Okay, so he's given his direction. So your duty is to check with Ahl al-Khibra, not this bahth. I'm going to, next week, we're going to discuss the methodology of Sayyid Sistani. The week after, inshallah, we are going to discuss the methodology of ijtihad of Sayyid Muhammad Sa'id. I got this book of Sayyid Muhammad Sa'id al-Hakim from his son when I was in Najaf al-Ashraf. So this has all his argument about. And I have Tanqih of Sayyid al-Khui. Sayyid Sistani has a booklet. Also his arguments are there. So the arguments, if the mujtahideen, their arguments are there, then alhamdulillah, we are in a good shape. But majority of the mujtahideen, the arguments are not there. They just is bahth kharij, and they're not printed form. And those who are not on the highest level of the ijtihad, their arguments are printed out. So this is the book of Sayyid Muhammad Taqi al-Qummi, Sayyid Muhammad Taqi al-Qummi, Muhammad Taqi al-Qummi, student of Sayyid al-Khui. He has rebutted the theory of Sayyid al-Khui in some areas, which we are going to discuss next week. But as I said, if Sayyid al-Khui was alive, would Sayyid al-Qummi stand to his arguments? I don't think so. Unless if he was really like solid proof and solid arguments. But we'll see next week, inshallah. And that is all who to decide, mujtahideen, or qualified for Ahl al-Khibra. So with this, we start the evidences of Sayyid al-Khui, Quddasa Sirruh today. So today our session is Sayyid al-Khui. Sayyidina, what is your mas'ala? And what is your mas'ala, Sayyidina? And what are your evidences? I'll not go into deep terminologies, which last session the A'lamiyya took, and it took 10 sessions. So I'm just going to make it short because many requests is, can you make it short evidences so that we can understand? We're not going to become mujtahid on this Zoom classes. Okay, so based on that request, inshallah, we're going to bring that, we are going to keep that hujjiyat ta'yiniyya, hujjiyat taqiriyya, munajjiziyya, mu'adhiriyya kind of things away. Okay, so let's open the slide and check what are the arguments of Sayyid al-Khui today. Okay. Let me just warm my throat. I hope it works. So this is our third bahth. First bahth was argument on taqleed of women being marja. We discussed that argument. Why can't a woman be marja? We presented the arguments and that topic was done in one session. Then we had this a'lamiyya. That was our second bahth. That took 10 sessions because it was too deep and the terminologies. Now this is the third bahth, moonsighting between Alkhoei, Sistani, Tabatabai. Tabatabai, I mean Muhammad Sa'id al-Hakim, the one who says unity of the land. Today my arguments are going to be on Sayyid al-Alkhoei. Next week we are going to see Sayyid Sistani, inshallah. The week after we are going to see Sayyid Muhammad Sa'id. So in Minhaj al-Salihin, ruling number 1044, you can find this ruling in Islamic laws of Sayyid al-Alkhoei. It's available on alislam.org. alislam.org. So they have this English book of law of Sayyid al-Alkhoei still available. So he says that if the moon was sighted, and if the crescent, to be more precise, al-hilal means crescent. إِذَا رُؤِيَ الْهِلَالِ, if the crescent was sighted in a city, it would be sufficient for the other city as well, as long as they are sharing the horizon. In a way that if it is seen here in this city, it has to be seen in the other city. It has to be. It cannot disappear. So if you saw, then it is sufficient for other city. So this is, he starts with the mashhur opinion. When they are united in the horizon, ishtirakima fil ufuq. He says, apparently, that means whenever the word apparent is used, that means what is apparent from the evidences and arguments. So apparently, it is sufficient, kifayatul ru'ya fi baladin ma fi thubuti li ghayri min al-bilad al-mushtarika ma'hum al-layl. So he started with a mashhur opinion, unity of the horizon. Then he says that even if they are united in the night, they can follow each other. Even if in one city, the night was ending, that means the sun was rising. In other city, the night was beginning, that means the sun was setting. So the sun has set, the sun is going to rise. Let's say in Sweden, the sun is going to rise. In California, the sun has set already, set. There has to be night. But if the sun has not set yet in California, I cannot take. The sun has risen in Sweden, I cannot take. So unity of the night is the criteria. Then he elaborates to start. That was an introduction. Now he starts the ruling. Now he starts his argument. He says, in elaboration, the cities on the face of the earth are of two types. Type number one, where the sun sets, they are shared. Sunsets and sunrise, they are shared for these cities, or close to, أو تتقارب. So you don't have to have exact sunset time. Oh, in Gothenburg, it is like 10:30. You don't have to have in Malmo 10:30 as well. So Malmo, the sunset like 10 o'clock, 10:15. That's fine. Still, we are sharing the sunset. Now, the sunset had flaws in it, okay? Problems. So, but Sayyid Sistani had fixed the problems. There were scientific problems in this because the science got advanced and this was realized, and with continuous arguments and that war of the scholars. Before they had wars, now all communities they have war. Now every marja is calm, they have the rulings, but now the communities they fight. Yes. So sunsets and sunrise are shared. They can share their moonsighting. This is opinion number one. Mashhur, popular opinion. The second one, ما تختلف مشارقه ومغاربه اختلافا كبيرا, where the sunset and the sunrise have big variances. Okay, so these are the two types of regions on the face of the earth: common sharing of the sunset sunrise, differences in the sunrise and the sunset timings, vast differences like 15 minutes, 20, half an hour, okay, but not more. I mean, some say 1 hour, but as I said, let's wait until we see the criteria of Sayyidi Sistani. He's not looking at half an hour, he's looking at really scientific criteria of sunset and sunrise. So he says that أما القسم الأول, as for the regions which share the sunset, اتفق العلماء الإمامية, Imami scholars, they agreed. Okay, majority of them, not majority, this is all, because this is inclusive to the opinion of the sharing of the night. If they say sharing of the night, so sharing of the sunset is inclusive. So that's why he said all of the Imami, unanimously, all of the Imami, they agreed that if in one place a moon is sighted and that place shares the sunset, then you can follow. So even the unity of the night, they will say, yes, obviously, because the night is starting together here. Okay, the sun is setting together, so the night is starting together. So even the unity of the night people, they support this. So all of the Imamis, they agree. So he says that, فَإِنَّ عَدَمَ رُؤْيَتَهُ فِيهِ. So if they share the sunset and it was not sighted in another region, okay, sharing the sunset, then that must be due to the mountains, forests, lofty trees, clouds, and so on. So that is going to basically be the argument. The argument is that they share. So if the moon is sighted here, proper sighting, then in other cities there's no way they cannot sight it, unless if that cloud, dust, trees, lofty trees, whatsoever. So that can be the cause preventing cause. Otherwise, if it's sighted here, sighted there. So this is the argument of the mashhur, where there is a scientific problem in this ruling, which Sayyidi Sistani would solve it. So, and that's that also scientific problem Sayyid Alkhoei raised. So now we come to this, sorry. Yes. أما القسم الثاني, and as for the second, the regions where they do not share the sunset. Okay. They said, فلم يقع التعرض لحكمه في كتب علماء المتقدمين. Previously, scholars before Sheikh al-Tusi, no one discussed this issue of the unity of the night. As I mentioned, this is more developed thing. So no one discussed this issue. So to everyone, and every region they had like mind our own business, because it was difficult to travel from. So rarely people were, oh, really, it was sighted in your city. Then we also have to now do qada. Don't tell me drink golden milk, which is like turmeric. I drank that. I kept turmeric in my coffee. I kept cinnamon in my coffee. I kept all whatever is required. But yes, it's an allergic problem I have. So, so did you get it? So where these ulamas, they did not discuss this issue at all. It is a contemporary issue. And that shows development of the fiqh and the school of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. We're not retarded, as somebody says, Maraji are living backward. No, look at this as an evidence that science is used, logic is used, modern development of arguments are used here, scientific development are used. I'm sorry, I've annoyed you with my cough. Please forgive me. Allah forgive me. Naam. So he says that old scholars before Sheikh al-Tusi, no one argued. But it is mentioned that Sheikh al-Tusi had argued this probability. نعم حكي القول باعتبار اتحاد الأفق عن الشيخ الطوسي. Like unity of the sunsets, it has been mentioned by Sheikh al-Tusi in the book of Mabsut. So now it was discussed, but Sheikh al-Tusi still was not saying that he said, if one city is cited, another city, the way narration says. Hadith says, if one city cited, another city cited. That's it. City, how long, how fast, how distant, the hadith does not declare. So our old scholars, they did not need to define the distances, because reaching out to other cities would take lengthy hours, lengthy days. فإذا Sayyid Alkhoei says, so therefore المسألة مسكوت عنها. The ruling, no one argued, no one brought it up. Most of the majority of the because Sheikh al-Tusi and before Sheikh al-Tusi are mutaqaddimun. So majority, they never even discussed this issue. Sheikh al-Tusi pointed out this issue of unity of the sunset. But unity of the night, it was not at all in their mind. وإنما صارت, the issue happened only when صارت معركة للآراء, battle of opinions. When Sayyid Alkhoei says battle of opinion, he means it. Because when these new things, they come up, then there's a rebellious, everybody will, ulama will try to defend their arguments with rebuttals and arguments and rebuttals. So it becomes like a battle of like usuli ikhbari issues. So most of the usulis, they started using intellectual arguments and scientific facts, the astronomy and those kind of things. وإنما صارت when did it start? متأخرين, in the time of the Hellis, in 700 Hijrah. That means just before 700 years. Okay, it started to pop up. باعتبار اتحاد الأفق. Now this is still, they're arguing, should the cities share sunset or should they not share sunset? The unity of the night had not popped up yet, this 700. So the unity of the sunset was introduced. What is the distance between a city and a city? So unity of night, sunset was introduced. That is, wala. So متأخرين المعروف بينهم القول, the majority who started giving the fatwa that you cannot share any city, it needs to be sunset. So that means the unity of the night was still a baby inside the belly of the mother of the fiqh. It was not even born yet. ولكن then خالفهم في جماعة من العلماء. A group of scholars, they started to oppose the scholars of unity of the sunset. والمحققين فاختاروا القول بعدم اعتبار الاتحاد. So you don't need that the unity of the sunset. And if one city has cited, it's sufficient for other city. So again, let us sum up this development. Before Sheikh al-Tusin, before, no criteria. Any city cited, just follow that citing. And they did not have reached out to the vast distance of the cities. So whatever cities would be, they will be in the close proximities. Okay, so that was number one. What was their argument? Evidence? Hadith. Hadith did not define. Therefore, Sahih Hadith did not define the distance, unity of the night or unity of the sunset, did not. They were like, then when this popped up, limitation on the unity of the night, the scholars started objecting. From where did you get it? Hadith did not say that. Hadith is absolute. Why are you limiting the hadith to unity of the sunset? Just leave it open. So there was a tug of war, like back and forth arguments. So, and then the issues came, the distance, how far distance, 800 kilometers, this and that. There's a long argument. Inshallah, after we take the Sayyid Muhammad Saeed's opinion. If we have time, we are going to discuss. Otherwise, in Muharram, these things are going to stop. We want to focus on Aza of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, Majalis Abi Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. The Hausa stops their bahth. Then we go in the bahth of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, and crying and shedding our tears the way our Ma'sumin alayhi salam do. They will stop everything and they will dedicate their time for the Majalis of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, Majalis of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. So we follow our Imams. No Hausa and Muharrams, 10 days of Ashura. So, so we have this unity of the night, development. So no, just leave it as it is before. Then argument, those who started putting unity of the sunset, they were opposed. Why unity of the sunset? Leave it like that, the way hadith is there. Okay. So as you see that no restrictions, then restrictions, unity of the sunset. Then again back to no restrictions, but then there a small tiny restriction came, unity of the night. And then again back, say the Sistani's group, back to unity of the sunset, but fixing the theory which had some flaws in it. So absolute restriction, unity of the sunset. Then absolute, then restriction, unity of the night. Then back to restriction. So this absolute restriction. So whenever an evidence is absolute, you have to take it as its absoluteness, unless if there's another evidence restricting this absoluteness, limiting this absoluteness. And that evidence could be religious evidence, Quran or Hadith, authentic Hadith, or it could be logical arguments, or it could be scientific facts, which are used in this area, besides logical arguments. Okay, so this is what he says that. So then after that, وَلَكِنْ قَدْ خَالَفَهُمْ فِي جَمَاعَةٍ. After the unity of the sunset, again, scholars came and said, no, remove this unity of the sunset. Let it be open. So if anyone, where it is cited, it has to be cited to any other country. And they use scientific arguments. And then they had to restrict it to night back again, like Sayyid Alkhoei. So he mentions Sayyid Alkhoei, some of the scholars, top scholars. Now there may be others, but Sayyid Alkhoei is a giant. He will present arguments of the giant on the table. You see, because he takes the challenges of the giants, like Al-Allam Al-Hilli, the giant. So he says, Allam Al-Hilli, فَقَدْ نَقَلَ الْعَلَّامَ الْحِلِّي in 700 Hijrah, before 700. عن بعض علمائنا واختاره صريحا في المنتهى. So he said, no need to restrict, leave it open. Okay, so Allam Al-Hilli, this time they left it open. And he chose in his book of Muntaha, Sarihan. So he mentioned this opinion, but then he embraced this opinion in his book of Muntaha. Shahid al-Awwal, he said unity of the sunset. But Shahid al-Awwal's book is taught in the Hausa, the one who was in prison and wrote the book of Fiqh, Lum'at Dimashqiyya. Okay, it was written in the prison and he was murdered. So he was martyred, rahmatullah alayhi, Quddis sirra. So he's the author of the Lum'ah. In his book Ad-Durus, he said there is a probability. So he said this is what is proven to him, but still that could be the absoluteness. Remove the restrictions. Probability is there. But and then after him, Al-Muhaddith Al-Kashani, the author of the book of Al-Wafi, he chose clearly, no, remove restrictions, any city which is cited, but these are the minorities, not the majority. The majority are still no, sunset, unity of the sunset, because it made sense to them at that time based on scientific direction. But then the argument was, why are you restricting it? It is totally away from the methodology of ijtihad. You guys are using qiyas. Okay, I'm going to mention that later on. That was argument. Sahib al-Hadaiq, He's an Ikhbari scholar, but he was inclined. His theory was a lot of similar to the Usuli. So it was like one leg in Ikhbarism, one leg in Usul. Sayyid Alkhoei was impressed by Sahib al-Hadaiq, Sheikh Yusuf al-Usfur, who died before 200, about 200 years before our time. So Sahib al-Hadaiq, he also chose this opinion. And he was the giant, one of the giants of Ikhbaris, who was like in between the reconciliation between Ikhbarism and Usulism. So he used intellectual argument, which was condemned by Ikhbaris, but yet he was inclined towards his methodology of Ikhbarism. And then Sahib al-Jawahir, the author of Jawahir al-Kalam, in the explanation of Sharia al-Islam, 43 volumes, analysis of all the rulings of fiqh mentioned in Sharia al-Islam. Sharia al-Islam are 4 volumes. He wrote explanation of Sharia al-Islam in 40 volumes, 43 to be precise. So he was inclined. So these are giants who chose. He was inclined towards this. And then Abu Turab al-Khansari after him. He also explained in Najat al-Ibad, and he was inclined. And Sayyid Muhsin Hakim al-Tabatabai, before Sayyid Alkhoei, he also chose this in Mustamsak. So in summary, he mentioned that from Allama to Sayyid Hakim al-Tabatabai, because Sayyid Alkhoei is mentioning. Okay, then he embraced and he added a scientific flavor to it. Otherwise, leaving that like that absolute hadith without restricting with sunset or unity of the night, you get into scientific glitches. Okay, so that's why see how our maraja, how they're scientists, they don't allow a scientist to catch a point on them, scientific point on them, and yet their ignorance, they demean our maraja. They want to modernize the marja'iyya. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. So they're the new cons, fake ayatullahs. You see, they're challenging them. These are mathematicians. These are giants. Let's come back. So now Sayyid Alkhoei, he starts. So Sayyid Alkhoei now, he mentions the scholarly opinion before him, that any place it is cited, it is sufficient for other. Without, they did not mention the unity of the night. Sayyid Alkhoei added this restriction. Okay, so now Sayyid Alkhoei mentions وهذا القول أي كفاية الرؤية في بلد لثبوت الهلال في بلد آخر مع اشتراكهما في كون ليلة واحدة. So Sayyid Alkhoei said that they have to be united in the night. Okay, لهما معا وإن كان أول الليل لأحدهما, even if the beginning of the night is in one city and the end of the night is in other city. He says, even if their horizons are different, sunsets are different, sunrise are different, huwa al-azhar, most apparent to me from the evidences. So now we come back to the development. So there is qawlun, evidences say that any city moon is sighted, you share it if you find out that they are sighted properly. Not those sightings which sometimes some of the countries, they issue moon sighting without any knowledge, without any scientific probability of it. So if moon is sighted, okay, in one city, anywhere you are, you can follow. So that is qawl, fatwa of majority of the scholars. Then the group of sunrise and sunset came. They said apparently al-zahir, apparently it is, we have to keep sharing of the sunset with it, restricted. Sayyid Alkhoei, then he mentions that apparently no, apparently the unity of the, you don't need to, you cannot restrict it. That is wal-zahir, he said it before. Okay, wal-zahir. And now we come to azhar. Azhar, most apparent, that they share the night. So qawl, then qawl al-zahir, contradicted with qawl al-zahir, then Sayyid Alkhoei said azhar, most apparent to me. Af'al. So that's most apparent to me. This is something which you can find it on to see where the nights share. If you go to this timeanddate.com and click on it, okay, so you will get this page. Let me just help you out and click it. So the page comes, but then, oh no. So then I have to share, sorry, I have to share this. I have to stop sharing and I bring back that sharing. Anyhow, you can just click on this line, timeanddate.com, and then I'll send you the slides, inshallah. So you can click on this time and date, and you can easily find this map of sharing of the night. So the nights, they have, there is a range. And because now in summer, we have shorter night. So that's why you see this all regions on northern hemisphere, they have shorter night. And southern hemisphere, they have longer night. In winter, opposite happens. Then the curve will be opposite. So this curve will become upside down in winter. So winter, the southern hemisphere will have shorter night and we will have longer night. So this is a very unique scientific direction that we have regions. That means if the moon is sighted here, but according to this map. So in Sweden, you can see this is Fajr, that this faded line is Fajr. And when this Fajr ends, the sun rises. So in Stockholm, we have sun is going to rise, it has not risen. And in California, or let's say in Mexico, the sun is going, sun has set already. Sun has set already, you see? So all these regions, wherever it is sighted, they can follow each other. But then there is a point captured on Sayyid Alkhoei on this, which we are going to discuss later on. And then there is a point. So you can't say who is right and who is wrong. They all have uniqueness in their arguments. The more development you go, the more developed argument you find. So it brings you back to square zero. Who's most a'lam? It's difficult to say. We have to go to Ahl al-Khibra. Check out Mujtahideen. How many of those top Mujtahideen, they have similar, then that will give you probability that no, Sayyid Alkhoei is most knowledgeable in this ruling, or Sayyid Sistani is most knowledgeable in this ruling. I may do the research and I may convert. I'm following Sayyid Alkhoei, but in this ruling, if I go and ask Mujtahideen and I find that the majority of the Mujtahideen are inclined towards Sayyid Sistani's direction, in this ruling, I may convert or I may refer. So, but I may stick to Sayyid Alkhoei because I have this other, or I may change to Sayyid Muhammad Sa'id al-Hakim if I ask the majority. But Sayyid Muhammad Sa'id is still in the minorities. For a person like me who's not Ahl al-Khibra, who's not a Mujtahid, I can't decide that Sayyid Muhammad Sa'id al-Hakim is a'lam, most knowledgeable, unless if I see Mujtahideen embracing that. So this is the sharing of the night. You got it? How the night is shared between, okay, so I have a situation. The Facebook people. This is the map I'm showing my classroom. The nights are sharing. Because the Facebook people, we are always left behind. We don't get to see the stuff which the classroom people see. Join the classroom. It's not, if you want, you can always request to join the classroom and get the privilege of, so the classroom people are first class, they get more stuff, and you are like an economic class, you get only to see my face only. So, so therefore, we have this sharing of the night. So, and it differs from season to season, as I said. In summer, in winter, we might be sharing more countries. If we live in Sweden, we might be sharing more countries in winter. In summer, we barely share so many countries. But in Africa, I decided, like it happened in the Eid, we could follow Sayyid Alkhoei followers because we share the night with Africa in summer. Okay. Anyhow, let's go to the arguments of Sayyid Alkhoei. Now, Sayyid Alkhoei starts his argument. He starts with a scientific analogy. So, instead of reading and boring you, let me just, this is my example of sun and moon. So this is moon, okay? And this is moon. It is behind shadow of the earth. So sun reflection cannot come. So I have to put it like this, okay? So you are people of the earth. You cannot see the moon. So you are people of the earth. You cannot see the crest moon, okay? The moon is behind the shadow of the earth. So once it starts, let me just lift it up. Once it starts, okay, the crescent comes out. So the moon is like the moon is going behind the earth. So now it's not behind the shadow of the earth. So it's behind the shadow. And once it peaks, peekaboo, like peaks out, and the sun got you. The sun ray falls on it immediately. And congratulations, Eid Mubarak. The moon is out. But that's the moon is out. Is it out in a sightable condition or not? That's the question. So even if the moon is out, the crescent is out, you can see the crescent. But can the people of the earth see it? Because there are so many conditions, scientific conditions, which makes the moon in a sightable conditions. How moon is above the horizon, below the horizon, and the size of the moon, and all these kind of things, and angle and azimuth and prismuth and all those kind of things. A lot of scientific things are involved. So if that angle is sufficient for the moon to be sighted, then yes, if it comes out, it will be sighted. So even though the moon is sighted, now let me tell you one thing on this. There are people, they say, oh Sheikh, what will Sunnis they say? The Shias are different in the moon sighting. Okay, one day, another second day. Let me tell you one thing. When I was in United States, at one time, the Sunnis, they had 3 Eids. How's that? There was a group, they said, once the moon is out, the moon moves away scientifically from the shadow of the earth. Even if it is not sightable for the people of earth, that marks the first day of the month. That was one group of modern Sunni, scientific Sunnis, okay? And then there was another group, no, it has to be in a sightable position for the people of earth. The third group was Saudi Arabia. That's it, Saudi sighted. So we used to have that scientific group, Scientology, Sunni Scientology or Muslim scientific group. And then we used to have this Saudi moon, scientific moon, Saudi moon, and local moon. So don't tell me they also have ijtihad. We have ijtihad. Don't tell me this kind of thing that, oh, so what will Sunnis tell us? What about non-Muslims? Let non-Muslims so understand we have knowledge here. We have deep knowledge. We have arguments. We have, if ignorance, they will speak, let them speak. But knowledgeable person who understands knowledge, whether he's Sunni or Shi'i, he will not speak like that. Because if you're going to tell me Sunnis what they will say, I will tell you I've seen Sunnis, they have 3 Eids. Then what will you say? And we have also, I've seen 3 Eids in the Shias as well. In the United States, one day there was Eid for those who say, even if it is not sighted, as long as it is in a sightable condition, okay, they follow, they follow, that they don't need to sight at all. And even, but it has to be in a sightable. The Shias, they agree. But the thing is, do you need to sight or not? So those, this group, they said that, so this group, what did they say? They said that Eid, second day, Sayyid Alkhoei and those Unity of the Night, when I was in Dearborn, Michigan. The third day, Sayyid Sistani, Sayyid Al-Khamenei followers. Okay, now 3 Eids. So they will come and ask me, Sheikh, now which day you did your Eid? I'll say, I did my Eid on 3 days. He said, how can that be? He said, I used to say that, are you my enemies? I want to enjoy. These youth are all my beloved sons. I want to eat halawa, buqlawa on the first day, and on the second day, and on the third day. Why do you want to deprive me from this joy of being with my beloved youth? Some youth, they will be one day, second day, third day. All the youth are my sons and daughters. I want to enjoy Eid with them. Are you my enemy? Oh, one Eid only, your Eid. No. So then they will ask me, okay, when did you pray your Salatul Eid? Now you have got an argument. I prayed my Salatul Eid according to Sayyid Alkhoei. That's only Salatul Eid. And that does not prevent me from having joy and happiness. And let's say if I'm fasting, if some of these youth came and told me, Eid Mubarak, my fast is broken. It doesn't happen like that. But it's not my Eid. How can they say Eid Mubarak? And it has taken so sensitivity that people are afraid to tell you Eid Mubarak. I say, yeah, Eid Mubarak to you. What does Eid Mubarak mean? That may Allah make your Eid blessed Eid. That dua doesn't have to be, I can tell you from now, Eid Mubarak. Every day you don't commit sin, enjoy that day. Blessed day. May Allah make every day of your days blessed day. What is the problem? Why can say the Sistani followers not handle Eid Mubarak of Alkhoei followers? And why Alkhoei followers, when they want to say Eid Mubarak, was it your Eid or not? Just say it. Eid Mubarak. Let me have that dua. Let me have it. Why you are not? Unless if I have Eid, you will give me that dua. Come on, I mean, say Eid Mubarak. Enjoy it. Say today, tomorrow. There's no Sharia law. It's haram to say Eid Mubarak on the day you are not doing Eid and you're fasting. This was as a sidetrack to indicate that this ruling is not what will people say, what will Muslims say. It is an intellectual argument. It's a debate. If ijtihad is permissible in Islam, to look into the evidences with different angles and conclude. So obviously one scholar will conclude an argument, a fatwa, a verdict, which might be different than other scholar. That's natural. So scholars, by default, there will be differences in fatwa. Because like this example, the narration is one, but the angles of looking into this narration are different angles. And based on these different angles, the fatwas come. Otherwise, we say, no ijtihad, stop, finish, lock the door of ijtihad, stagnate your mind, close your intellectual development. That is not Islam. Islam promotes development. So we come back to this. So there is a development, so there's no problem. So he said, Sayyid Alkhoei. Now he starts his argument. So he said, I'm sorry, I really annoyed you with my cough. Let me check if it works out. Okay, fine. Tolerate me, 20 minutes are left, because we said that 2 sessions, 45 minutes, but you refused to take rest and you said continue so that we are done in 1.5 hours. So that's why rest is when we are in the classroom, you don't have your coffee beside you, you don't have your food, so you're resting the whole time. And I don't know if some of you have slept or not, or snoring, but anyhow, if you have slept, you can refer back. It will be on the YouTube and on the Facebook, so you can refer back to it. So now, number one, he says that once the moon comes out, okay, from the shadow of the earth, from the mahak, it doesn't go back and comes out next day for other region and this region. He says it doesn't make any sense. So he's using intellectual argument here, okay? So he said that So once it finishes, it comes out for all the people of the earth. ومن الواضح أن خروج القمر من هذا الوضع هو بداية شهر قمري جديد. It's new month. Once it comes out, it's new month for everybody on the face of the earth. You guys are on the face of the earth, okay? So every region has to see it in 24 hours, unless if there was cloud or those kind of things. And there's a point of problem here, which if Sayyid Alkhoei was alive, he would have argued. Students has got this point. But anyhow, so وإن القمر وإن كان القمر مرئيا في بعضها. Yes, some place it may be, some place it not be observable, citable due to the reasons, but it is out. New month is there. Old month has ended. Finish. فإنه لا يرتبط بعدم خروج المحاق ضرورة أنه ليس خروجه منه أفرادا عديدة بل هو فرد واحد. It's one day it has popped out the moment the crescent was out in a citable position by the people of the earth. That's it. The month is out. Now you have to find it out by sighting. Okay, so the sighting of the moon is the main thing, not just coming out of the horizon in disagreement with the Sunni scientists who took that opinion. بل هو فرد واحد متحقق في الكون in the universe. لا يعقل. It doesn't make any intellectual, so it's absurd, he says. تعدد بقاع. So multiple places, it goes back in and comes out, goes back in and comes out for each region. Doesn't make any intellectual point here. لا يعقل. عقل doesn't make any intellectual point. بخلاف طلوع الشمس. Unlike the sunset and sunrise. Yes, sun will set here, then it will set there, then it will set there, and the region's sun will not set, and the region's sun will not rise on that region. So there are variances. So he says, comparing this with this, comparing this natural phenomena, this is his point of argument, disagreement with others. When you compare this one natural phenomena, unified for the people of the earth, with a phenomena which varies on the people for the people of the earth, this is comparing apples with oranges. You cannot use it. In school of Ahl al-Bayt, you cannot use qiyas. He says this is qiyasun ma'al fariq. So what is this qiyas? Qiyas is analogy of comparing. So there is a common point in these two things. You see, that common point shifts the rule from A to B. For example, alcohol is forbidden. Alcohol, kullu muskirin khamr. That kullu muskirin khamr, where did it come? Come from the hadith. The hadith gave us this common point. Anything intoxicates is going to take the rule of khamr, alcoholic beverages or wine, which is forbidden. So the rule of wine is forbidden, point A. Drugs, which intoxicate, point B. So we shift the rule of haram from here to here. This is called qiyas. But this is qiyas mansus bi'illah. The common point has been narrated. But if the common point is not narrated, then you are going to do qiyas, which was embraced by school of companions or certain scholars from the school of companion, which was rejected by Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. So he says, those people who compared this phenomena, which comes for all the people of the earth, once it is out, the month starts for all the people of the earth, is unlike sunset. Sunset differs from region to region, from place to place. Why are you comparing a phenomena which is unified phenomena for the people of the earth with the sunset, which alters from region to region? That is the point of argument, strongest point of argument, why Sayyid Alkhoei rejects the sunset and the multiplicity of the Eid and multiplicity of the horizon. Like why Sayyid Alkhoei says that no, this every region which sunsets, no, because he says comparing this phenomena. This is a scientific phenomena. That is a scientific phenomena. These two scientific phenomena are different. This is a daily happening thing. That is a monthly happening thing. That is one. These are multiple. We are comparing a phenomena which happens once for everybody with a phenomena which happens every second and every minute as you pass by region. So this is the point number one. Let's go to point number two. This is the main core argument. Now all the coming parts are narrations he's going to mention and religious evidences, but his intellectual scientific argument was this. So he says that وعلى ضوء ما هذا, he says it is obvious, it is clear now that comparing this phenomena, a unified phenomena, natural phenomena, with the sunrise sunset, it is قياس مع الفارق. These are the words used. That means you guys are using, and which is rejected by Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. That is not the school of Ahl al-Bayt analogy. Strong words of Sayyid Alkhoei. So he says that Earth is natural, spherical. So it's natural that sunset will differ from every region to region. But then the moon coming out from this is one thing. It does not happen from region to region. It's there. The moon is out. It's not going to go in and out for Pakistan, in and out for Doha, in and out for Sweden, in and out. It's not going to happen like that. Okay? But then you will see the rebuttal. It says it doesn't have any connection. Apples, bananas, two different things. The conclusion of this argument. He says, if إن رؤية الهلال في بلد ما إمارة قطعية, if one place sights the moon, it is definite, certain indication that the moon is out, the month is in. The only thing is that it has to go city by city. Okay, the moment the night falls, it's for them, even if they don't sight it, as long as they share the night. So it is لأهل الأرض جميعا. So it is for the whole people of the earth. لأهل الأرض جميعا. لا لخصوص البلد الذي يرى فيه وما يتفق فيه الأفق. It is not specific for region. This coming, the crescent coming out is not specific. And this is why he says, أن الذهاب المشهور, the majority, the popular opinion, the popular scholars, or the majority of the scholars, when they said اعتبار اتحاد البلدان في الأفق مبني على تخيل, it was based on mere imagination, not an intellectual foundation point. That's strong. But then we are going to see the rebuttal, and they will say the same thing to Sayyid Alkhoei. Okay, just wait, stay tuned for next week. So Sayyid Alkhoei says it is based just on mere imagination to compare a natural phenomena, a global phenomena, with the sunsets and the sunrise, and this is totally imagination. There's no connection between the crescent coming out and between the sunsets. لا صلة كما عرفت لخروج القمر عنه ببقعة معينة. The connection, there's no connection. Once moon comes out, it doesn't have anything to do with regions. One region, like sunset, is regional. Every region has, it doesn't have, it's one for all. Now let's take the evidences and we'll finish our bahth for today. The evidences is hadith. There are 4 hadith. The context is same. I'll mention one hadith and I'll explain it, and then you will understand the remaining hadith. Sahihat Hisham ibn al-Hakam. Now remember, the hadith does not define unity of the night, unity. It's absolute. And ilm al-usul, we said, if an evidence comes absolute, you leave it absolute. If you restrict it, then you need to present evidence of restriction, evidence of limitation. It is unlimited. Doesn't mention unity of the night. So then what is your argument? So we said that if this narration is sahih, conflicts the intellectual concepts, like scientific concepts which are proven, then we have to find a solution. And that solution was for the Maraja, popular Maraja, to limit it to unity of the night, unity of the sunset. And they were rebutted. No, leave it open anywhere. Then Sayyid Alkhoei kept the limitation, unity of the night. So why Sayyidina, you limit it on the night? What is your evidence? He's going to mention his evidence now. The reason I said night, because the evidences indicate one night. How, Sayyidina? So let's take this. So evidences are two-part now. Evidence indicating absoluteness, no restriction of the sunsets, and then his argument addition to limiting it to night. In Kanat, so Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, and obviously this used to happen. People travel after 1 month, a guy comes from Basra to Medina or Medina to Basra. You know something? When did you guys have Eid? Well, we got the Eid on Monday. So when was your holy month of Ramadan? No, when did your holy month of Ramadan started? It's Monday. We had seen Sunday was our first month. Oh no! They come to Imam Sadiq. Yabna Rasulillah. People, they cited the moon of holy month of Ramadan one day before us in that other city. So they had 29 days of Sha'ban. We had 30 days of Sha'ban. We had not fast that day. What should we do? Imam would say, do qada. What does that mean? That means follow that city. That city had first holy month in a specific day. That means it was your day as well. Follow that city. That means follow the moon sighting of that city. That means if that city has proven, it has proven for you. But you missed it. You are not a sinner because you did not have knowledge. But if they sighted the moon, that means it was moon for you. But you did not know. Do one qada, no problem, no kafara, no penalty, qada. Look at that. So 4 hadith, they are talking about this. People, they ask Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. And this is our evidence that one city can share other city. And the details are ijtihadat from our scholars, their intellectual analysis, in addition to whatever is mentioned. The hadith did not describe or limit the city how far it should be. So look at the words of Imam. Focus on the words of the Imam. Hisham ibn al-Hakam says, I asked Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam about this issue. He said, أنه قال في من صام 29 يوما. Let's say we in Sweden fasted 29 days. Let's not Sweden. Sweden is big. Let's say in Gothenburg, we fasted 29 days. Okay, because Sha'ban, we did 30 Sha'ban. We did 30 Sha'ban. Our Eid was together. Gothenburg and Copenhagen, for example, Gothenburg and Copenhagen, we all did Eid together. When you ask Copenhagen, they said, no, we had already sighted the moon of Sha'ban. So we fasted 30 days. You guys fasted 29 days. So now we have to follow Copenhagen sighting and we have to do 1 day qada. So we fasted how many days? 29 days. Copenhagen fasted how many days? 30 days. Keep this in your mind. I'll bring Gothenburg and Copenhagen, okay? Or let's make it more easier, Gothenburg and London, because then we share the horizon with Copenhagen. So let's make it London. London and Stockholm distance. So London, Stockholm. So we in Stockholm fasted 29 days. London, they fasted 30 days. So what did Imam say? إن كانت له بينة عادلة على أهل مصر. If this person who found out, who realized, if he found out that there were just witnesses, they had seen the crescent moon on that day, on 29th of Sha'ban, okay, then أنهم صاموا 30 على رؤيته قضى يوما. So they fasted 30 days because they had seen the moon in Sha'ban. So قضى يوما, he has to make up 1 day fast. Any sharing of the night here? Any sharing of in the hadith of the Imam, words of the Imam? Nothing. One city cited, you do qada. You're supposed to fast with them. You did not, you missed, do one qada. Another narration. So he says, فَإِنَّ الصَّحِيحَ بِإِطْلَاقِ absolute, unlimited. There's no restriction in the hadith. He says, الشهر إذا كان 30 يوما, if it was 30 days in one region, then all the regions must have 30 days. If you did not fast 30 days, you have to do one day qada. That is his argument. So, and Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, Sayyid Alkhoei, Imam is not a narrator of hadith. He's presenting the ruling of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, given to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, given to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, given to Imam after Imam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving rule through the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, through Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam. That is what we Shias believe, that Imam is not a mujtahid, it's not a mufti, he's not giving his opinion, he's giving us the fatwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah did not restrict it. Imam alayhi salam did not restrict it. Okay, kept it absolute. No restrictions there. So the hadith is absolute. The hadith is absolute. Okay. So now we have hadith did not restrict. Sayyid Alkhoei says it is mutlaq. The word mutlaq means absolute, unlimited, unrestricted. There's no sharing of the sunset, sharing of the sun, night, or anything. It's absolute. Another Sahih of Abu Basir, radwanullah alayh. Again, look, find anything indicates night or a sunset. He now su'ila. Abu Basir says Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was asked about the day to be done, made up qada for holy month of Ramadan, because they fasted 20 days. Do they need to fast one day extra? Because their perception was holy month of Ramadan is 30 days. And by the way, this perception is there because there are weak narrations saying holy month of Ramadan has never been in the ilm of Allah less than 30 days. But that's a weak narration. So what does that mean? That means holy month of Ramadan has to be 30 days. Now some Urafa in Qawm, the Irfani people, when his moon is sighted, they don't want to, Ya Allah, please don't let the moon sight. Don't let the moon sight. Don't let the moon sight. They want to complete because they're close to this ikhbari notion. Because there's a hadith saying that Ramadan has always been 30 days. How can we have Ramadan 29 days? So this notion in the mind, so once the moon is sighted, what do? They precautionarily do qada for the 30th Sha'ban. They think that, no, if Ramadan has always been 30 days, but for you, fast 30th Sha'ban qurbatan lillahi ta'ala. Inshallah, if the Ramadan is always 30 days, you fasted 30 days, one day of Sha'ban and 29. So if in the knowledge of Allah, Ramadan was 30 days, you did 30 days. Because there is a hadith. And based on that hadith, many people, they say, no, holy month of Ramadan has to be 30. So when you give them that moon is sighted, here in our countries, people, hey, mabrook, kull aam wa antum bkhair, mubarak, congratulations. For them, as you have given him, somebody died, some precious one died. No, inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. That means we missed one day of holy month of Ramadan, being guest of Allah. Holy month of Ramadan has to be 30 days. Why was the moon sighted? That means that the Sha'ban was the first day. So they get like paranoid. And due to the love of God, it's not like craziness. No, because they have seen these kind of hadith. That holy month of Ramadan is never less than 30 days. It's complete. So if you want to do, you can fast 30 Sha'ban qurbatan lillahi ta'ala or qada any day. So if it was in the ilm of Allah, holy month of Ramadan first, you will get the thawab of the 30 days of fasting of holy month of Ramadan. But if it is not proven, you cannot fast with the intention. So there was a notion. So people would ask, Yabna Rasulullah, the holy month of Ramadan this year was 29. So should we do an qada? So Imam says, La taqdihi. No, you don't have to do qada. Illa an yuthbit shahidan. Unless if two just witnesses, shahidan adlan min jami' ahl salah, from the Muslims, if Muslim communities around the world, true Muslims, not nowadays we have problems with following just Muslim country. We need to know that their validation of the moon sighting is properly done or not. So if the moon sighting was done properly in the people of in Muslim communities, that when the moon was sighted, mata kana ra'su shahr, beginning of the month, whenever it was there, like holy month of Ramadan, first day was proven. وقال لا تصم ذلك اليوم. Do not fast that day, 30th Sha'ban, الذي يقضى إلا أن يقضي أهل الأمصار, unless if people they do qadha, that means they find out that it was proven to be first day of the holy month of Ramadan and not 30th Sha'ban. So that means you do qadha. فَإِن فَعَلُوا فَصُمْهُ. So if they fast, regions. So the word regions, this is where our point is. لَا تَصُمْ ذَلِكَ الْيَوْمِ. Don't fast that day. You don't have to on an obligatory basis. الَّذِي يُقْضَى. People usually, they do qadha. If they see 29 holy month of Ramadan, they do qadha. إِلَّا أَن يَقْضِي أَهْلُ الْأَمْصَارِ. Unless if the people of the regions, they find out that it was proven Ahlul Amsar, regions, no sunset, no night here, regions, other cities, other places, no indication of any of are they sharing the sunset or are they sharing. If they do, then fast. The third narration is also similar. Here in this slide, he mentions that لا تصم ذلك اليوم فإنه كسابقته. It's clear that when the different regions, no matter how different they are, the moon is one for everybody. So Imam says, if it was sighted anywhere, you do qadha. So this anywhere word is indicative of absoluteness. Ahlul Amsar. Ahlul Amsar means anywhere. It's absolute. It does not restrict. وإن شئت رؤية الهلال في مصر كافية. So Misr, not Egypt, Misr. Misr here means a region. Any region is cited, it is proven to be cited, it is sufficient for other regions. So then we come to the third narration and fourth narration. Third narration is similar. I'm not going to explain. لا تصمه. Imam says, a guy comes and asks, he says, Ishaq ibn Ammar, he says, يا ابن رسول الله, يا أبا عبد الله, he سألت أبا عبد الله عن هلال رمضان يغم علينا. We did not see. It was blocked to us, the moon of the holy month of Ramadan. And we fasted in 29 Sha'ban. 29 Sha'ban, we couldn't see. So should we do qadha for the 30th? Imam says, وَلَا تَصُمْهُ إِلَّا أَن تَرَاهُ. And you don't know, you don't fast that day, unless if you see it. فَإِن شَهِدَ أَهْلُ بَلَدٍ آخَرٍ. If another city, another region, they witness sharing of the night, no. Sharing of the sunset, no. أَنَّهُمْ رَأَوْهُ, they saw it, فَقْضِهِ, then do qadha, if it comes to. So Sayyid Alkhoei says here also we have absoluteness, no limitation, okay, about the sunrise and sunset. And the fourth narration, سألت عبد الرحمن ibn Abdullah, Sahih, all these are four authentic narrations, Sahih. He asked Imam Sadiq of the holy month of Ramadan, يَغُمُّ عَلَيْنَا, 29 Sha'ban, we did not see. So Imam says, لا تصمه, do not fast, إلا أن تراه, unless you see it. فإن شهدا أهل بلد آخر. So same thing, if other regions, no sharing of the night, sharing of the sunset, nothing. If other regions they see, then you just go with them and do your day qadha, which was missed. And then Sayyid Alkhoei says, he's supporting his argument about the day of Eid. He says in qunut of Salat al-Eid, what do we say? Allahumma as'aluka bihaqqi hadha al-yawm alladhi ja'altahu lil-muslimina Eidah. Bihaqqi hadha what? Yawm. I ask you by the sake of this day. So he says it's a one day. Otherwise, Imam would have taught us, as'aluka bihaqqi hadhi al-ayyam. I'm asking you by the sake of these days which you have made for Muslimin Eids. Imam did not say Eids. Imam did not say days. Imam used one word, by the sake of this day which you have made. Obviously, there is a rebuttal for it. Okay, so don't jump on your horses. And obviously, there was a rebuttal by Sayyid Alkhoei to them as well. So he says, Takbirat of the day of Eid has As'aluka fi hadha al-yawm. I'm asking you in this day, alladhi ja'altahu lil-muslimina Eidah, which you made this Eid for the Muslims. So here he says that according to this, جعله الله تعالى عيدا للمسلمين. And every day we cannot consider today is Eid, today is Eid, today is Eid. Okay, so if once a region, any of the regions cites it, that second day is Eid for everybody, regardless of their horizons, sunsets. And this is number one. Number two, he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, جعل هذا اليوم عيدا للمسلمين كلهم, all the Muslimin. جعلت هذا اليوم الذي جعلته للمسلمين, for all the Muslims Eid. لا لخصوص أهل البلد تقام في صلاة العيد, not specifically for those cities which صلاة العيد is. So in conclusion he says, يوم العيد واحد, day of Eid is one. لجميع أهل البقاع والأمصار, for all the regions and the locations of the earth, with its variances in its horizon and sunsets and sunrise. على اختلافها في الآفاق والمطالع. And he says also, he supports his argument, he says, and this is the final one, إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر. He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, night of Qadr. So if we have two moon sightings, two places, as we have one night of Qadr for Sayyid Alkhoei's follower, one night of Qadr for Sayyid Sistani's follower. So alhamdulillah, 6 days ibadah. How lucky you guys are that your Husainiyat and Imam Baghdad have 6 days of Layal al-Qadr. So we have not 2 days, 1 day for Sayyid Sistani, 1 day for Sayyid Alkhoei, Sayyid Alkhoei, Sayyid Sistani. So recently, alhamdulillah, now the moon was sighted, so it was not problem. I remember some days we used to have 6 nights of Qadr, not 3. And though 3 are probabilities, now we got 6 probabilities. It's good. The more you connect with Allah, because we have so much filth, so much temptation, so much deviation, so much immorality. So we need more boosts. So that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making us connect to Him 6 days, mashallah. So, ويدل أيضا على آية القرآنية إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر. So he says that Quran was descended when? إنا أنزل ليلة القدر. It doesn't mean that Quran was descended on one region and then it went back. Jibreel came and took it back and brought it back down and took it back. For every region, Quran was coming back and forth. So he said that إن القرآن نزل في ليلة واحدة. Quran was descended in one night. وهذه الليلة الواحدة هي ليلة القدر. This one night is one night of Qadr, which Quran was descended in. وهي خير من ألف شهر. And it is much better, more better than the 1,000 months. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes the decrees. So he says Allah does not make decree on one night for one region, another night for another region, third night for third region. It's one decree for everybody. One decree for all the regions of the earth. So ومن المعلوم أن تفريق كل أمر حكيم فيها لا يختص بقعة معينة من بقاع الأرض. It's one night for everybody, one night of Qadr, one night of decree, and one night Allah prescribes for the angel that prescribes the death and the bala and the livelihood and everything is prescribed. In this is one night. In conclusion, he said, Laylatul Qadr Layla Wahida wali Ahlil Ardi Jami'an, and for all the people of the earth, la inna, one region has one night of Qadr, another region has another night. That means somebody is missing the night of Qadr. And then he says that the narrations, they don't mention anything about the sunrise, and the narrations are absolute. Even weak narrations have not mentioned this. وَمِنْهُ, from this we can understand أَنَّ الذِّهَابَ الْمَشْهُورِ, the majority popular opinion, which they said it is not narrations. Narrations do not mention sunset, sunrise. They don't mention this multiplicity of the horizon. So if they compare, it was an ijtihad of them. It was their intellectual conclusion, intellectual argument. So if they had made that, then he said they had used qiyas, compared apples with bananas or apples with oranges. And that is rejected. Okay, the قياس في هذه المسألة, comparing sunsets with the natural phenomena, global phenomena, which happens to everybody, that is قياس مع الفارق. I bolded. But Sayyidina, you also mentioned night. You restricted on night. So what is you have restricted? So I gave you religious evidences. Night of Qadr. Night of Qadr. So it's one night. So that means wherever the night is, it's going to be. And this night covers the whole earth in 24 hours. So as long as the night starts, your night of Qadr starts, your night of Eid starts, and in 24 hours, everybody will have that night of Qadr and night of Eve of Eid. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. And we open the floor for the questions.